Have you been experiencing that heavy, tired feeling in your legs? Maybe you've noticed swelling in your ankles by the end of the day, or perhaps you feel tingling and numbness that just won't go away. You know, I've had countless patients walk into my office over the years, and they tell me the same thing. They say, Dr. Honjo, I can barely make it through my grocery shopping anymore. My legs feel like they're filled with cement. And here's what really breaks my heart. Most of them have already tried everything their doctors recommended. They've taken magnesium supplements, they've elevated their legs, they've worn compression socks, some have even resorted to expensive treatments and medications. But nothing seems to work long term. And do you want to know why? Because they've been focusing on the wrong thing entirely. I'm Dr. Tasuku Honjo, and today I'm going to share something with you that the pharmaceutical industry doesn't want you to know about. There's one specific vitamin that has the power to completely transform your leg circulation, reduce that painful swelling, eliminate the numbness and tingling, and give you back the freedom to walk, stand, and enjoy your life again. And no, it's not magnesium. In fact, when I reveal what this vitamin is, you're probably going to be shocked that more doctors aren't talking about it. But before we get to that, I need you to understand something crucial about what's really happening inside your legs right now. You see, when you're experiencing poor circulation in your legs, what's actually happening is your blood vessels are struggling to do their job. Think of your circulatory system like a complex network of highways. When you're young, these highways are smooth, wide, and traffic flows perfectly. But as we age, something happens. These highways start to narrow. They become stiff and rigid. And here's the kicker. They start to accumulate something called arterial calcification. Now, you've probably heard about plaque building up in arteries, right? But what most people don't realize is that calcium deposits play a massive role in this process. Your arteries literally start to harden because calcium is being deposited in all the wrong places. And this is where everyone gets it wrong. When people experience leg circulation problems, they immediately think, oh, I need more magnesium. And look, I'm not saying magnesium isn't important. It absolutely is. Magnesium helps with muscle relaxation and can support cardiovascular health in general. But here's what magnesium cannot do. It cannot remove calcium that's already been deposited in your arterial walls. It cannot restore the elasticity of hardened blood vessels. And it cannot redirect calcium to where it actually belongs, which is in your bones, not your arteries. So what's the answer? What's this miracle vitamin I'm talking about? It's vitamin K2. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, wait, I've heard of vitamin K. Isn't that just for blood clotting? And yes, vitamin K1, which you get from leafy greens, is primarily involved in blood clotting. But vitamin K2 is an entirely different beast. This is the vitamin that acts like a traffic controller in your body, directing calcium away from your soft tissues, away from your arteries, and into your bones and teeth where it belongs. Let me explain this in a way that makes sense. Inside your body, you have proteins that are responsible for managing calcium. One of these proteins is called matrix GLA protein, or MGP for short. This protein is found in your arterial walls, and its job is to prevent calcium from being deposited there. But here's the catch. MGP needs to be activated to work properly, and the only thing that can activate it is vitamin K2. Without adequate vitamin K2, your MGP remains inactive, and calcium continues to accumulate in your arteries, making them stiff, narrow, and unable to efficiently pump blood to your legs. Now, there was a groundbreaking study called the Rotterdam Study that followed more than 4,000 people for over 7 years. And you know what they found? The people who had the highest intake of vitamin K2 had a 62% lower risk of severe arterial calcification compared to those with the lowest intake. 62%. That's not a small number. That's life-changing. And another study published in the Journal of Vascular Research showed that vitamin K2 supplementation actually reversed arterial stiffness in participants. Let me say that again. It didn't just slow it down, it reversed it. Think about what this means for your legs. When your arteries become more flexible and elastic again, blood can flow more freely. That means more oxygen and nutrients are reaching the tissues in your legs. That heavy, tired feeling starts to disappear. The swelling goes down because fluid isn't pooling in your lower extremities anymore. The numbness and tingling fade because your nerves are finally getting the blood supply they need. You start to feel like yourself again. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Vitamin K2 doesn't just work on your arteries. It also activates another protein called osteocalcin, which pulls calcium into your bones. So you're getting a double benefit. You're removing calcium from where it shouldn't be, your arteries, and you're strengthening your bones at the same time. For seniors, this is absolutely crucial because we're not just dealing with circulation issues. We're also concerned about bone density and the risk of fractures. Vitamin K2 addresses both problems simultaneously. Now, I want to pause here and talk about something important. You might be wondering, Dr. Honjo, if vitamin K2 is so amazing, why haven't I heard more about it? Why isn't my doctor recommending it? And that's a fair question. The truth is, vitamin K2 has been largely overlooked in Western medicine for decades. It's been well studied in countries like Japan and the Netherlands, where it's even used in clinical settings to support bone and cardiovascular health. But in many other countries, it simply hasn't gotten the attention it deserves. Part of the reason is that there's no big pharmaceutical money behind it. You can't patent a vitamin. There's no blockbuster drug to sell. So there's less incentive to promote it, but the research is there. The science is solid, and the results that I've seen in my own patients are nothing short of remarkable. I had a patient, let's call her Margaret. She was 73 years old, and she came to me because she could barely walk from her car to the store entrance without having to stop and rest. Her legs were constantly swollen, and she described this burning sensation that kept her up at night. She had been taking magnesium for months with no improvement. Her doctor had even suggested she might need to consider more invasive treatments. I put her on a therapeutic dose of vitamin K2, along with vitamin D3, which I'll explain why in a moment, and within 6 weeks, she called me in tears. But they were happy tears. She told me she had just walked around her entire neighborhood, something she hadn't been able to do in over 2 years. The swelling was gone. The burning had stopped. She felt like she had her life back. And Margaret's story isn't unique. I've seen this pattern repeat itself over and over, but here's something you need to understand. Not all vitamin K2 is created equal. There are different forms, and this matters tremendously for your results. The two main forms you'll find in supplements are MK4 and MK7. MK4 is a synthetic form that has a very short half-life in your body, meaning you need to take it multiple times throughout the day to maintain adequate levels. MK7, on the other hand, is a natural form derived from fermented foods, and it stays in your bloodstream much longer, up to 72 hours. This means you only need to take it once a day, and it provides more consistent benefits. The research strongly supports MK7 as the superior form for cardiovascular and bone health. In fact, most of the studies showing reversal of arterial calcification use the MK7 form. So when you're looking for a vitamin K2 supplement, you want to make sure it specifically says MK7 on the label. And the dosage matters too. For therapeutic purposes, especially if you're dealing with significant circulation issues, you're looking at somewhere between 180 to 300 micrograms per day. Some studies have used even higher doses safely, but I always recommend starting with what the research supports and working with a healthcare provider who understands nutritional medicine. Now, I mentioned vitamin D3 earlier, and there's a very important reason why I always recommend taking vitamin K2 and D3 together. Vitamin D3 helps your body absorb calcium from your food and supplements. That's great for your bones, but here's the problem. If you're taking vitamin D3 without adequate vitamin K2, you're increasing calcium absorption, but you're not directing where that calcium goes. This can actually worsen arterial calcification. It's like putting more cars on the highway without improving traffic management. You just create more congestion. But when you combine D3 with K2, you get the benefits of improved calcium absorption, and K2 makes sure that calcium ends up in your bones, not your arteries. They work synergistically, and you get dramatically better results than taking either one alone. There's also another nutrient that I want to mention here, and that's magnesium. Now, I know I said this vitamin isn't magnesium, and that's true. Magnesium alone won't solve your circulation problems, But magnesium does play a supporting role. It works together with vitamin K2 and D3 to support overall cardiovascular function and bone health. So while it's not the star of the show, it's definitely part of the ensemble cast. Think of K2 as the lead actor, with D3 and magnesium in important supporting roles. Let me talk about food sources for a moment, because while supplementation is often necessary to get therapeutic doses, you should also be including K2-rich foods in your diet. The absolute best source is a Japanese food called natto, which is fermented soybeans. Now, I'll be honest with you, natto is an acquired taste. It's sticky, it's stringent, and many people find it challenging to eat. But it contains more vitamin K2 than any other food by a significant margin. Just one serving can give you several hundred micrograms of MK7. Other good sources include grass-fed butter, especially from pasture-raised cows, grass-fed cheese, egg yolks from pasture-raised chickens, and certain fermented cheeses like Gouda and Brie. The reason grass-fed and pasture-raised matters is that animals that eat grass produce more K2 in their products compared to grain-fed animals. So if you have access to these foods, they're definitely worth including in your diet. However, for most people dealing with significant circulation issues, food alone isn't going to provide enough K2 to reverse arterial calcification. That's where supplementation becomes essential. Now let's talk about what you can expect when you start taking vitamin K2. First of all, this isn't an overnight fix. Remember, arterial calcification and circulation problems develop over years, sometimes decades. You're not going to reverse that in a week. However, many people start noticing improvements within the first month. You might notice that your legs feel less heavy by the end of the day. The swelling might start to reduce. You might find that you can walk a bit further without discomfort. These are all signs that your circulation is improving. Over the next several months, these improvements typically continue. Some research suggests that significant reversal of arterial stiffness can occur within 6 to 12 months of consistent supplementation. But here's the key word: consistent. You need to take this daily. This isn't something you take for a few weeks and then stop. For optimal cardiovascular and bone health, vitamin K2 should be part of your long-term nutritional strategy. I also want to address safety, because I know some of you are thinking about medication interactions. If you're taking blood-thinning medications like warfarin or Coumadin, you need to talk to your doctor before taking any form of vitamin K, including K2. These medications work by blocking vitamin K activity, so supplementing with K could interfere with their effectiveness. However, some newer research suggests that taking a consistent daily dose of K2 might actually make blood thinner, dosing more stable and predictable, but this absolutely needs to be managed by your healthcare provider with regular monitoring. For the vast majority of people not on blood thinners, vitamin K2 is extremely safe. There's no known toxicity level, and studies have used doses of up to 1,000 micrograms per day without adverse effects. The most common side effect is no side effect at all. People just start feeling better. Let me share another patient story with you, because I think it really illustrates the broader impact this can have on your life. I had a patient named Robert, 78 years old, who loved to garden. It was his passion, his stress relief, his joy. But over several years, he had to give it up because he couldn't spend more than a few minutes on his feet without severe leg pain and cramping. He tried everything. He saw a vascular specialist who told him his circulation was poor, but not bad enough for surgical intervention. He was prescribed medications that made him dizzy and didn't really help his legs. He was told to just accept it as part of getting older, but Robert didn't want to accept it. When he came to me, I evaluated his nutritional status and found he was severely deficient in vitamin D3 and, almost certainly, K2, though we don't have readily available tests for K2 in most clinical settings. I started him on a protocol of K2, MK7, D3, and magnesium, along with some other supportive nutrients. 3 months later, he was back in his garden. 6 months later, he was entering his tomatoes in the county fair again. He told me, "Dr. Honjo, you gave me my life back." But here's the thing, I didn't give him his life back. Vitamin K2 did. I just knew where to look. And that's what I want for you. I want you to understand that poor leg circulation, painful swelling, numbness, and tingling don't have to be your reality just because you're getting older. Your body has an incredible capacity to heal and restore itself when you give it the right tools. Vitamin K2 is one of those essential tools that most people are missing. Let me give you some practical steps to take action on this information. First, consider getting your vitamin D levels tested. This is a simple blood test that most doctors can order, and it will give you valuable information about one piece of the puzzle. If your D levels are low, which they are for most people, especially seniors, you'll want to supplement with D3. And when you do, make sure you're also taking K2 to direct that calcium properly. Second, look for a high-quality vitamin K2 supplement in the MK7 form. Look for products that specify the amount of MK7 on the label, typically in the range of 180 to 300 micrograms. Check that it's from a reputable manufacturer that does third-party testing for purity and potency. Third, consider adding some K2-rich foods to your diet. Even if you can't stomach natto, grass-fed dairy, and pasture-raised eggs can contribute to your overall intake. Fourth, be patient and consistent. Give this protocol at least 3 to 6 months to really work. Take your supplements daily, preferably with a meal that contains some fat since K2 is fat-soluble and absorbs better with dietary fat. And fifth, pay attention to how you feel. Keep a simple journal if you want. Note things like how far you can walk comfortably, how your legs feel at the end of the day, whether swelling is improving, whether you're sleeping better because you're not dealing with discomfort. These subjective improvements often happen before objective measurements change, and they're important indicators that you're on the right track. I also want to emphasize that while vitamin K2 is powerful, it works best as part of a comprehensive approach to health. You still need to move your body regularly, even if it's just gentle walking or chair exercises. You still need to eat a nutrient-dense diet rich in vegetables, healthy fats, and quality protein. You still need to manage stress and get adequate sleep. But when you add vitamin K2 into this foundation, you're giving your cardiovascular system and your bones the specific support they need to function optimally. Before I wrap this up, I want to address one more thing. Some of you might be thinking, this sounds too good to be true. How can one vitamin make such a difference? And I understand that skepticism. We've all been promised miracle cures that didn't pan out. But here's the difference. Vitamin K2 isn't some unproven exotic ingredient. It's a well-researched nutrient with decades of scientific study behind it. The reason it seems like a miracle is simply because most people are deficient in it, and when you correct a deficiency, the results can be dramatic. Think about scurvy, the disease sailors used to get from vitamin C deficiency. When someone with scurvy got vitamin C, the transformation was remarkable. Wounds healed, energy returned, bleeding stopped. It seemed miraculous, but it was just the body getting what it needed. The same principle applies here. When your body finally gets adequate vitamin K2 after years of deficiency, it can start undoing damage and restoring normal function. That's not a miracle. That's just good nutrition. So here's my challenge to you. Don't just watch this video and forget about it. Don't let this be another piece of health information that you find interesting but never act on. If you're dealing with leg circulation issues, if you're experiencing that heaviness, swelling, numbness, or pain, you owe it to yourself to try this. Get yourself a quality vitamin K2 MK7 supplement, pair it with D3 and magnesium, and commit to taking it consistently for at least 3 months. I think you're going to be amazed at the difference it makes. And look, I know some of you are going to go to your doctor and ask about this, and your doctor might not be familiar with vitamin K2 for circulation. That's okay. Bring them the research. Show them the Rotterdam study. Show them the studies on arterial stiffness reversal. Good doctors are always willing to look at new evidence, especially when it's this compelling and this safe. Your legs carry you through life. They deserve the support they need to keep doing that job well. Vitamin K2 can provide that support in a way that magnesium alone, compression socks alone, or even many medications can't. It addresses the root cause of arterial stiffness and poor circulation by managing calcium properly in your body. Thank you so much for watching today. If you found this information valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with anyone you know who's struggling with leg circulation issues. Leave a comment below and let me know if you've tried vitamin K2 or if you're going to give it a try. I read every comment, and I love hearing about your experiences and answering your questions. Remember, aging doesn't have to mean suffering. With the right knowledge and the right nutrients, you can feel vibrant, mobile, and energetic at any age. I'm Dr. Tasuku Honjo, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care of those legs and take care of yourself.